So now I'm going to talk about Muhammad and the coming of Islam. In context to Western civilization, I teach Islam thoroughly in my 106 class. But I add a little bit more details. I'm going to be really brief with some of the aspects, just in the way the textbook also kind of glosses over some really important fundamental aspects of Islamic history. But since this is Western civilization, I will kind of keep us Western oriented in context to information because I'm trying to speak the relevance to our topic. I don't kind of make myself commit to that when I'm teaching the 106 class. But in any case, we're going to move into a discussion of this. I just thought I'd point out something briefly, that Islam does not allow their prophet to be depicted. You will not run across depictions of the prophet Muhammad. Okay, and as I think I mentioned to you before, there was already the idea that portraits were forbidden, although many Muslim communities and many Islamic empires do end up, you'll see portraits. That doesn't come in the Quran either. That comes in the Hadith. We'll get to that. But I just thought I'd point out, if a person is a religious Muslim, not teaching it from a secular point of view, they will say, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, always when they say his name, and that will distinguish the Prophet Muhammad from any other Muhammad. And in religious writings in the English world, you will often see PBH, peace be upon him. You would know right away if you're reading a text written by a Muslim as opposed to a secular person. Although occasionally Muslims who are trying to write to a Western audience will sometimes not put that there, but as a general rule, that's an indication of a Muslim writer. And I just kind of wanted to point that out, give you a little polish on your understanding of Islam. Okay, we're going to move on. So here's a geography of Arabia. Not as a centralized state, but a collection of tribes and clans, kind of like the Germanic peoples and what we've learned, right? So if you look at this picture here, this gives us this map really helps indicate already where we've been working with in this class. The Byzantine Empire over here, the Sasanian Empire, the Persians over here. And then we have these pre-Islamic Arabian kingdoms over time here, okay? The Arabs had their legacy all the way back into Roman times. Petra as an example, the Nabatean kingdoms, and so forth. So I want to just kind of point out, and as a side note, Yemen actually has a king convert to Judaism in the 6th century, little before the rise of, before the birth of Muhammad. And then the Jewish king tries to convert Christians to Judaism by force, and down here in Ethiopia, the Christian king intervenes and crushes him, Dhu Nuwas, and ends that. But yes, believe it or not, you had an Arab kingdom, the Himyarite dynasty, that actually converts to Judaism for a while. And so that's also going to kind of be relevant to the topic of Muhammad coming in contact with Arab tribes that are Jewish. But anyways, we'll move on to that. So the Arabs, just to put more in context, as we saw in the text, the use of camels were very important. They were called ships of the desert. And they developed city-states in certain pockets in around 1000 BCE. The southern part, by 400 BCE, created trade in two directions: ships moving using the Mediterranean, and the north using camel trade routes. The south eventually collapsed, and after the Ptolemaic dynasty took over, empire. So we know about the Ptolemies, right? And so that, just to put some context on that. And again, think of the Arabs somewhat like the Germanic tribes or other people that are not a part of quote-unquote civilization. Although the Arabs, though, did create civilization, like the Nabateans, for example. But I feel like I'm losing you. So let me just go back to this. So here's what's interesting. Not in the textbook, and really kind of coming into, fits nicely into the discussion of the text. There were Christian Arab states that were a part of this region. And I kind of think I need to, well, sorry. So both the Persian and Byzantine empires made alliances with these small, semi-independent Arab principalities, okay? These were buffer states. So keep in mind that when we talk about the Persian Empire and the Byzantine fighting, and there's all these borderlines and these periphery ends, that this war between the superpowers spills over into smaller groups. We see that now in modern history as well. And so what is going to spill over from something is always hard to tell. So the Byzantine clients had the Ghassanids. They were against the other Arab groups, the Lakhmids, and they were penetrating Roman territory. They occupied much of Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, and Palestine. They converted to the monophysite form of Christianity, if you remember that Jesus was always fully God at all time. So they were a part of the heretical branch according to the Orthodox faith. The Byzantines attempted to suppress the heresy, alienating the Ghassanids and sparking rebellions on the desert frontier. So that caused tensions with them and the Byzantines. They did remain a Byzantine vassal state until its rulers were overthrown by the Muslims. Okay, and then you had the Lakhmids, and this was a group of Christian Arabs at the time who lived in southern Iraq and made Al-Hira their capital in 266 CE. They immigrated from Yemen in the 2nd century. Their dynasty converted to Nestorian Christianity. Nestorian Christianity, if you remember him, he was the one that talked about how Mary could not be called Mary, Mother of God, but that Christ would be called, it would be Mary, Mother of Christ, not Mary, Mother of God. And that he believed that Jesus was God, but that his human essence was much more significant in this debate. Now, the Nestorians are the religious practice of much of the Assyrian Church of the East and now, or there's that connection to that, okay? Their main rivals were the Ghassanids, who were vassals of the Sassanids' archenemy, the Byzantine Empire. This was a major center of Nestorian Christianity, and it was nurtured by the Sassanids, because it was opposed to the Orthodox Church of Rome. Now, why would I bring this up into this? Is that, first of all, Arabs were already on the periphery of these two superpower states. And they were already familiar with ideas coming from Christianity. And as I mentioned before, also in Yemen, there was Judaism even. Okay, so when we get to Muhammad, he comes in a context that's not like a vortex. I mean, I think the way a lot of people conceive of this is that Muhammad is in this pagan, backwoods, deserts area, and he just kind of comes out of nowhere. And in the Quran, he addresses Christians and Muslims so often, and it's essentially because Christians and Jews were really they had their contacts with the Arab world quite extensively. So here's the Lakhmids and here's the Ghassanids right here. So you can see where they are in this buffer zone, and here's Yemen. I'm going to skip over this really quick. This is again talking about the Himyarite dynasty, but again this is actually a Catholic saint crushing a Arab Jewish king saving Christians, Saint Elsaban, in around 520 CE. So very little known history. Okay. All right. So then I bring that all up again for the background. So Muhammad is from the sources that we are working with. Well, actually, I'm going to stop here and I'll move on to Muhammad in the next lecture.